right, let's get started. So with the solid color yarn, which is yarn A in the pattern, you are going to chain a multiple of 2 plus 4. So for today's video, we are going to chain 18. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, and 18. Okay, you've got your 18 chains, and you're going to count 2 chains from the hook, so 1, 2, and you're going to insert your hook into that second chain from the hook and bring up a loop. You'll have 2 loops on your hook. You're going to insert your hook into that next chain and bring up a loop. Now you have 3 loops on your hook. You're going to insert the hook into the next chain, 4 loops, insert it into the next chain, 5 loops, and insert it into the next chain. And that is 6 loops on your hook. And now you're going to yarn over and pull through all 6 loops on your hook to where you just have 1 loop left on your hook. Now we need to chain 1 to close this stitch. So chain 1, and that chain 1 creates the eye of the star, which we are going to use along this row, and then also when we turn it to work on the row 2. So that is the first star. For the second star, you're going to insert your hook into that hole that you just made. So insert your hook into that hole that you just made, and now you're going to insert your hook between the 2 last spike stitches, is what we're going to call them, spikes or loops. You're going to insert your hook in between those 2 that you just made from the first star stitch. So find that second to last spike in the first one and insert your hook in between those 2 and bring up a loop. Find that next chain, which is the same chain where the last loop of the previous star was made, and insert your hook in that and pull up a loop. You have 4 loops on your hook. And then you're going to find the next chain, insert your hook and bring up a loop. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 loops on your hook. Insert into the next chain and bring up a loop. And now you have 6 loops on your hook. Yarn over and pull through all 6. And then chain 1 to secure to create that eye. And we're going to do this again. Insert your hook into that eye, bring up a loop, insert your hook between those last 2 spikes or loops, insert your hook and bring up a loop, 3 loops on your hook, insert your hook into that chain, which was the last loop of the previous star was made. Insert your hook into there, bring up a loop, 1, 2, 3, 4 loops on your hook, insert your hook into the next chain, 5, and into the next chain, and 6 loops on your hook. Yarn over, pull through all 6. Chain 1 to secure. So you can see the star starting to take shape. So again, insert your hook into the eye, bring up a loop, 2 loops on your hook, insert your hook in between those last 2 spikes, bring up a loop, insert your hook into that chain from the previous star, bring up a loop, 4 loops on your hook, insert your hook into the next chain, 5 loops on your hook, and the next chain, 6 loops on your hook. Yarn over, pull through all 6 loops, chain 1 to secure. And we're going to do that several more times. Insert your hook into that eye, bring up a loop, in between those 2 spike stitches, bring up a loop, into that chain that you went in from the previous star, bring up a loop, 4 loops, insert your hook into the next chain, 5 loops, and the next chain, 6 loops. Yarn over, pull through all 6 loops on your hook, chain 1 to secure. Again, insert your hook into that eye, 2 loops, insert your hook in between those 2 spike stitches, 3 loops, insert into the chain from the previous star, 4, the next chain, and the next chain. And you have 6 loops on your hook, yarn over, pull through all 6. And now 1 more star. Chain 1 to secure, insert your hook into that eye, insert your hook into the space between the last 2 spike stitches, 3 loops, insert it into the chain from the previous row, 4, insert it into the next one, 5, and now you're coming up to the last chain on your row, insert it into that last chain, bring up a loop, and you've got 6 loops on your hook. Yarn over, pull through all 6. So as of right now, you should have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 stars. Now in order to not have any gaps on the side, we're going to do a half star stitch, which gives it a really nice clean edge. So to do a half star stitch, we're going to do half of the steps for the full star stitch. So again, chain 1 to secure. You're going to insert your hook into that eye, bring up a loop. You're going to insert your hook in between those last 2 spike stitches, bring up a loop, and then you're going to insert your hook into that chain that you worked from the previous stitch, which is the last chain of the row, bring up a loop, 4 loops on your hook, then you're going to yarn over and pull through all 4 loops on your hook. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 complete stars and 1 half star. And that is the first row of the star stitch. All right, now we're going to chain 2 and turn to get ready for row 2. Row 2 is super simple. We're just going to do half double crochets in each, 2 half double crochets into each eye of the star stitch. So we just chain 2, look for that first star, that last whole star, and look for that eye, and you're going to do 2 half double crochets in that. So a half double crochet is you yarn over, insert your hook in that eye, bring up a loop, 3 loops on your hook, yarn over, pull through all 3. And then you're going to do another half double crochet in that same eye, yarn over, insert your hook through the eye, yarn over, pull up a loop, 3 loops on your hook, yarn over, pull through 3. So 2 half double crochets in that first eye, look for the second one, and do 2 half double crochets in that one. And you're just going to do that all the way across. 2 half double crochets in each eye of the star stitch. And see, these half double crochets, if you turn it over, that is what is completing our star. So again, half double crochet all the way across. And for this pattern, the chain 2s and the chain 1s that we're doing do not count as a stitch. So that chain 2 that we just did doesn't count. So when we're counting how many half double crochets we have, we're not counting that chain 2. Okay, so we're coming up to the last eye. We're doing 2 half double crochets in that last eye. So we should have 14 half double crochets. So again, we're not counting that chain 2, but 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14 half double crochets. Now to end this row, we're going to do a single crochet in the chain from the row below. So find that chain from the row below, insert your hook, and do a single crochet. And that is the second row of the star stitch. Isn't that pretty? Okay, so now we're ready to switch yarns. So actually, I'm going to undo that single crochet because we're going to want to switch yarns. So to switch yarns, switch colors, add in the new color, you're going to insert your hook for the single crochet, but then we're going to bring in the new yarn to complete the stitch. So I'm going to pull that through And then when I have 2 loops on my hook, introduce that new color and pull it through to complete the single crochet. And that's how we bring in the new color. So now we're ready to do the crunch stitch rows. That's very hard for me to say. So the star stitch is always done in the solid color, and the crunch one is done in the self-striping yarn. So let's start the crunch stitch row. So the crochet crunch stitch is alternating half double crochets with slip stitches. That's what gives it the cool texture. So for the first crunch stitch row, you're going to chain 1 and turn. And usually when I'm doing this, I like to tighten up the yarn on the side a little bit. Not too much, but just enough to make sure it's not super, super loose. So chain 1 and turn, and then find that first stitch. Again, the chain 1 does not count as a stitch, so find that first stitch, which is the single crochet from the row below, and we're going to do a half double crochet in that first stitch. And then the next one, we're going to do a slip stitch. So a slip stitch, insert your hook in the stitch, yarn over, pull up a loop, and then pull it through the loop on your hook. That's a slip stitch. So again, the next one, half double crochet, and then the next one, slip stitch. Do it one more time, insert your hook into the stitch, pull up a loop. You have 2 loops on your hook, then pull it through the loop on your hook. That's a slip stitch. So again, we're just going to alternate half double crochets and slip stitches in every stitch across. So we started with a half double crochet, and we will end in a slip stitch. And you should have 15 stitches total. So we ended, the last one is a half double crochet. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, and 15. Okay, now chain 1 and turn. And since we ended in a half double crochet, we're going to start with a slip stitch because we want to slip stitch into the half double crochets from the row below and half double crochet into the slip stitches from the row below. That's what gives it its cool texture. So again, start this row with a slip stitch, insert your hook in the stitch, pull up a loop, pull through the loop on your hook. That's a slip stitch. So slip stitch and half double crochet all the way across, alternating. And I do have another pattern which uses this stitch. It's called the Amelia Blanket, and it alternates a solid color yarn with a self-striping yarn, but the entire blanket is in the crunch stitch. And then I show you how to do a cool border. So you can look that up on my channel. All right, since we started with a slip stitch, we should end with a slip stitch. So find that last stitch from the row before and slip stitch in that. And that is the crunch stitch row. Okay, so we just ended our crunch stitch row with a slip stitch. And even though we are changing colors, I don't like to change it like this, like we did with the other one, to finish the stitch. I like to finish the stitch in that yarn, and now I'm going to bring up, so see, we didn't fasten off that yarn, so now we're going to bring it up and bring it through that loop on your hook to change colors. So that's switching back to yarn A. And now we need to chain 3. So I'm not counting that one as a chain. That's just me switching colors back to yarn A. And now we're going to chain 3 to start the star stitch row. So 1, 2, 3, and turn. And you can see I didn't fasten off that yellow. It's just going to kind of hang out here until we grab it for the next row. So the rest of the star stitch rows are what we're going to do now. That first row was different because that was our foundation row. So this next star stitch rows are just a little bit different. Just starting out, it's a little bit different. So you're starting out with 3 chains, and then you're going to insert your hook into the second chain from the hook, and then you're going to insert it into that next chain, and then you're going to insert it into the first stitch from the row before. So again, find that second chain from your hook, insert it in there, bring up a loop, find the third chain, insert it in there, bring up a loop, 3 loops on your hook, find that first stitch from the row below, insert your hook, bring up a loop, 4 loops, find the next stitch, insert your hook, bring up a loop, 5 loops, insert your hook in the next stitch, bring up a loop, and you have 6 loops on your hook. Yarn over and pull through all 6 loops. And that is the first star stitch. Chain 1 to secure, and then just as we did from the first row of star stitches, insert your hook in the eye, and then insert your hook between those last two spike stitches. Bring up a loop, 3 loops, insert your hook into that last stitch from the previous star stitch you worked in, bring up a loop, 4 loops, into the next stitch, 5 loops, and into the next stitch, 6. So you'll have 6 loops on your hook, yarn over, pull through all 6, and then chain 1 to secure. And we're going to continue to do exactly that same thing all the way until we get to the last stitch. So let's work a couple more where I'm explaining the instructions, and then I will work through the rest of the stitches just quietly. So insert your hook into the star, into the eye of the star, insert your hook in the space between those last 2 spike stitches, find that stitch you worked from the previous star and insert it in that same stitch. Got 4 loops on your hook, insert your hook into the next stitch, and insert your hook into the next stitch and bring up a loop. 6 loops on your hook. Pull through, yarn over and pull through all 6. Chain 1, secure. One more time, insert your hook into the eye of the star stitch, insert your hook into the space between those last 2 spikes, insert your hook into the chain or the stitch from you worked from the previous star stitch, bring up a loop, 4, next stitch, 5, next stitch, 6. 6 loops on your hook, yarn over, and pull through all 6. Chain 1 to secure. So we're going to work those all the way across until we get to the last stitch, and then we're going to do a half star. Okay, we should have 7 stars. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Now we're ready to complete the row with the half star. So again, for the half star, insert your hook into the eye of the star, insert your hook between the last 2 spike stitches, bring up a loop, and then insert your hook into that last stitch that you worked from the previous star, bring up a loop, 4 loops on your hook, yarn over, pull through 4. And that is a half star. Now chain 2 and turn, and we're going to do half double crochets, 2 of them in each eye of the star stitch all the way across, and you will have 14 half double crochets. So again, 2 half double crochets in that first eye, and 2 half double crochets in the next, 2 half double crochets all the way across. Find that last eye, 2 double crochets in that, and we should have 14 half double crochets. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. And now we're ready to find that side chain and insert your hook into the side chain to do a single crochet. Now we're ready to change colors. So we left this color just kind of hanging out here, and we're going to bring it up the side just like we did with the other one. So that's how we don't have to fasten off the colors and have 100 ends to weave in, is that we just bring it up the side instead of fastening it off. Okay, so for this one, I'm going to insert my hook into that chain from the side, bring up a loop, and then I'm going to finish my single crochet by bringing in that new yarn color. So I've got 2 loops on my hook from the single crochet, and then pulling through to finish the stitch and give it a little bit of a tug to tighten it. And then chain 1 and turn. So that is 2 rows of star stitches and 1 or 2 rows of crunch stitches as well. And it's starting to take shape. So let's do 2 more rows of the crunch stitch with me kind of giving you some verbal instructions, and then let's do another row of star, and I will show you how to do the border. So for the crunch stitch, the first row you'll start with a half double crochet and you'll end with a half double crochet. The next one we'll start with a slip stitch and end with a slip stitch. So we chained 1, and now find that first stitch and do a half double crochet. And you may have to kind of, like I said, tug on that to tighten it up just a little bit. So half double crochet in that first stitch, slip stitch in the next one, half double crochet and slip stitch, alternating. All right, we're at the last stitch, and it is a half double crochet. So you should know that if you're starting with a half double crochet and you're ending with a slip stitch, you're doing something wacky on that row. You always end with the same stitch you started with. All right, ended with a half double crochet, chain 1, turn, and then we're going to slip stitch into that first half double crochet from the row below, and then half double crochet and slip stitch. Okay, we're at that last stitch, and it should be a slip stitch. So again, complete the slip stitch with that, and then bring in the new color when you chain. So this is the back, and that is the front. And as you can see, it's a little messy here with the yarn ups, but that's the great thing about the border, is it's going to cover that all up, and it's going to look really nice and neat. And this side, you know, looks a little bit uneven and wonky, but no worries. The border will cover that up and it will look fantastic. So we brought in that new color, and now we're going to chain 3. 1, 2, 3. And we're going to do the star stitch rows, and we'll end with that, and then I will show you how to do the border. Okay, now we're finishing up that last row on our clutch of the crunch stitch, and we're getting ready to do the border. You're going to not fasten off the variegated yarn that we're using. You're going to chain 1 and turn, and now we're ready to do the border. So you're going to do 2 single crochet in that first stitch. I always like to mark it with a stitch marker just so I know when I come back to it that that's the right one. So 2 single crochets in that first stitch, and then 1 single crochet in every stitch all the way across. When you come to the last stitch of this row, you're going to do 2 single crochet in that last stitch, and then you're going to turn your piece sideways, and you're going to do a single crochet evenly down the sides of the project, but you're going to do 2 single crochet in that first stitch on the side. So you're going to begin your round with 2 single crochets in the same stitch, and you're going to end your round with 2 single crochets in the first stitch. And then when you've done your single crochet border all the way around with the variegated yarn, now you're going to switch to the solid color yarn. So you can fasten off the variegated yarn, switch to the solid color yarn, and it's the same exact thing. Do 2 single crochets in the first stitch, and then 1 single crochet in every stitch until you get to the end, and then 2 single crochets in the last stitch of the round, and 2 single crochets in the first stitch. So like I said, you will always have 4 single crochets in the corners of your border. And now we're finishing up all of the rounds of the single crochet border with the solid color yarn, coming to that first stitch marker. And we're going to slip stitch into that first single crochet, and then we're getting ready to seam our project. So there is our finished piece for our spring clutch, and now we're ready to seam it together. So to seam it together, with right sides facing each other, you're going to fold up the bottom half, and that top half will be your flap. You're going to fold up the bottom half, and you're just going to seam the sides together. Now we started this off with a long tail, so you're going to take that long tail, and that's what you're going to seam one side with. And it's just a simple little whip stitch is what I use to seam the sides. So I counted up 10 complete star stitch rows, and that's where I lined up the bottom half with the top half that I'm going to sew it to. So 10 star stitch rows up, and then the rest of it is left to be the flap. So to give it a nice clean seam, I did a whip stitch. In order to give the corners a little bit more structure, I did several stitches into that corner so that it was nice and solid and didn't want to come apart, to give it some good hold. And then for the rest of them, instead of inserting my hook under both loops on both sides, I inserted my hook on the outside loops of both sides. And that leaves the inside loops facing each other, which just gives it a really nice clean seam when you turn it right side out. So continue seaming it all the way down, inserting your hook under those outside loops until you get to the last loop of that side. Now you'll attach your yarn to the other side, the other corner, and do the same thing on the other side. Seam all the way down, going into those outside loops, leaving those inside loops alone, so that gives it a nice clean seam. Seam it all the way down, and then fasten off, and then we're ready to move to the next portion, which is adding our I-cord handle. Now that you have both sides seamed, you're going to turn it right side out and look at your beautiful seams. Give those corners a little bit of a push to push out the corners, and now we are ready to add our I-cord handle. I made the handle of the clutch with the Caydo automatic I-cord machine. It creates beautiful I-cords, and I'll leave a link in the description where you can purchase it. In order to get the I-cord ready to stitch it on the clutch, you're going to find the end of the I-cord, and you're going to gently pull it out until there are 4 loops left, leaving about a 15 centimeter long tail. You're going to thread the tail onto a needle, and then you're going to start with the loop to the right of where the yarn is attached to the knot. You're going to slip each loop onto the needle. Then you're going to draw the tail taut as if you're closing up the top of a hat, and then you're going to pass the tail through the center of the I-cord tube to hide it, then thread the tail through the outside, and then you're going to fasten it off, and we're going to move to the other end. Now thread your needle on the other end so that we can close up that end as well. And then bring the two ends together and fasten them to each other. We're going to do this before we attach the clutch, or before we attach the handle to the clutch. And now you're going to take that end that is left over from attaching the two ends together, and you're going to stitch it into the inside corner of the clutch. Secure it in there really well, weaving your needle in and out through the same color as the handle. So we're going to weave it in, instead of weaving it in through the cream colored, we're going to weave it in through the variegated yarn. After you have that handle nice and secured in the corner, now it's time to fasten off the end and fold over your flap and enjoy your new clutch. You can add a snap if you want, or a button, or you can just leave it open like this. It's completely up to you. I hope you enjoy your clutch.